This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
My guest today on Sports Files is the head coach of the University of Memphis men's basketball team, Josh Pastner. Boy, has a lot taken place since the last time I spoke to you. As you likely know, we were preempted last week for our pledge drive, so it's been a couple of weeks since our last show. The big news that occurred was the decision by Grizzlies management not to renew the contract of head coach Lionel Hollins. That move certainly stirred the pot, not only here in Memphis, but around the entire NBA community. The Grizzlies have interviewed several candidates for the job, including former Denver head coach George Karl, the coach of the year this season. An odds-on favorite to get the gig, assistant coach Dave Yeager. But as of our taping date, no decision had been made. Also, since our last show, a new champion of the FedEx St. Jude Classic was crowned in former University of Georgia standout Harris English. Phil Mickelson finished in a tie for runner-up, and he would go on to finish tied for second in last week's U.S. Open for a record 6th time. Now, later on our show, I sit down with pro golfer Casey Wittenberg, who has won over $400,000 on the PGA Tour this season, but unfortunately missed the cut in both his hometown of Memphis and at the U.S. Open at Marion. But first, the always busy head basketball coach of the University of Memphis, Josh Pastner. I recently met up with Josh at his basketball academy, and we touched on a number of subjects, including his decision to bring in Michael Dixon, the former star guard at Missouri. Now, one other note. Not long after our interview, Pastner made the recommendation that former Arizona star guard Jason Gardner be added to the Tigers coaching staff, filling the last opening. So here's my interview with Josh from the Finch Center.
Well, Josh, this is part of your basketball academy. We got a lot of kids who are pretty loud out there, but they're learning the proper techniques of playing the game, and you're right in the middle of this thing, so you don't just use your name. You're out here trying to teach these kids.
No, I mean, this is called the Josh Pastner Basketball Academy. We've got great coaches that come here to work with the kids. It's a great week for the kids. It's a positive experience. They have fun. They learn the game. We have one more week left, and that's starting June 24th on Monday, and if you want to come to the camp, you can either come that Monday at 9 a.m. and sign up at the Finch Center, or go online at www.coachpastner.com, coachpastner.com. You can always call 678-2346, 678-2346.
Now, you have other camps as well. You have team camps, and tell me a little bit about them.
We got team camp, we got a power hour, so we got other camps. Team camp's more for high schools, power hours is a little more for individual, but you can get all that stuff on coachpastner.com, or always calling 678-2346.
What's the response been like?
The response has been good. Greg, you know this as well as anybody. People love basketball in this city.
It's a basketball town.
It's a basketball town. So, they're learning, they're getting to be active. We feed them lunch. They enjoy being around our guys, and they're getting good skill instruction during the week as well.
All right, you've been quite busy not only with your camp, but now with the NCAA rule change, you can work out players a certain amount of hours a week, so you're getting to see some of your new players. How is that going so far?
Well, Greg, a few things. I've enjoyed, because last summer was our first summer that we got to work with the guys individually. And I looked back and I said, okay, where was it good and where was it not good? And I probably did too much one-on-0, meaning just one player with one coach, just working on skill development. I'm changing the model this year and doing 3 times a week, still doing individuals, but doing guards on one end, bigs on the other, and then bringing them together for the last 20 minutes and doing a team workout. So we'll do 20 minutes individual and then 20 minutes team. And in the team workout time, we've been working on our offense, been working on our defense, and the main focal defensively has been pressing 94 feet, which I know everyone is so excited to hear. But we press, but because of our depth this year and our speed and our length, we need to be even more so than ever and try to play as kind of helter-skelter and pick up as many possessions as we can through the defensive end.
Personnel has really changed. Obviously, you have that nucleus in the backcourt coming back, led by Joe Jackson with Jaren Johnson and Chris Crawford, but a lot of new faces. The most recent new face, Michael Dixon, who played at Missouri, who still needs an NCAA waiver to be able to play, but he signed and going to class here. You took a chance with a guy who's had a little bit of a pass. Tell us why.
Well, let me say this, Greg. First of all, in no way, shape, or form do I have any tolerance or condone anything with any behavior when you're talking about sexual assault, rape, any abuse, any violent crimes. I have zero tolerance for that, zero. That being said, I also have a tremendous belief in law enforcement. As you know how big of a believer I'm in law enforcement. Heck, when I was in Tucson, I was going through the reserves program, trying to become a reserves police officer. I believe in law enforcement, and I believe in prosecutors. And going through all of our research and everything, bottom line is there is no charge, there is no arrest. You know, I got to put my trust and faith in law enforcement and the prosecutor. And so that's what I did, and there was an allegation, so we decided, hey, we can move forward with it. And Michael Dixon, he's here, he's taking classes. He's obviously a very good basketball player. You're right, he has to get a waiver to be able to play right away. We believe the waiver, he's got a great chance for the waiver to go through, but it's not up to us, it's up to the NCAA.
You would think precedent has been set with the Des Wells case.
Yes, I do think precedent has been set. He has sat out a year, and like I said, there is no charge, there is no arrest. That's the bottom line. And so I do think he's got a good case for the waiver to go through, but in the end, it's up to the NCAA. But the one thing he brings, he's another senior. He's a guy that's experienced. He's been around winning. He wants to win. He talks, he communicates. And people might ask, well, what happens if everyone makes it? Because Karan Iverson and Pookie Powell still haven't got through the clearinghouse yet.
Right.
And someone might ask, what happens if everyone makes it? Well, right now everyone hasn't made it. So I got to go with the information I have today. And if everyone makes it, we'll make it work. Things will work out the way we're going to play. We're going to be able to use a lot of bodies. And competition is healthy. Competition in practice is really important.
How much did going through the Jaren Johnson situation last year and him coming through with flying colors help you in making this decision?
Well, I think, because obviously I wouldn't make a decision without the support of my bosses, and that includes Athletic Director Tom Bowen and President Dr. Raines, but also the new President Brad Martin. So everyone was on board. I mean, look at Jaren. I mean, Jaren's been charged, convicted in different areas. You know, it was involving other things of a different level, but still, he had some issues. And Jaren has come in here and has done an amazing job of just kind of doing right. Let me tell you two quick stories. The guy, Jaren Johnson, sent a personal letter to Dr. Raines on his own, thanking her for the opportunity when she announced her retirement. On his own, he sent a thank you letter to her, thanking him for the opportunities to be given. Secondly, at the last day of classes, because it was his first time he's finished a full school year in a long time, he went out on his own money, went to the local pizza shop and got a bunch of pizzas for the academic center to thank him, to just say that he's finished a complete year. Those are the kind of gestures and kinds of acts of kindness that he is doing because he's so thankful for the second chance that's been given to him.
You bring in a guy like Dixon, like you said, you don't know what's going to happen with Iverson and with Pookie Powell as far as whether they'll be able to academically qualify. So you're making sure you have,
of course, you rather have one too
certainly,
than one too less.
But Dixon's a heck of a player, as you know. You have three terrific perimeter players coming back. Is there a concern about losing the chemistry that you guys have built?
You know what, Greg, here's the thing. You know, we're sitting here in June, and we don't play until November. A lot of things can happen between now and then, and chemistry is important. The great thing what I like about this group is they want to win. And winning is more important than anything. And in order to win, you've got to have depth. And the way that we want to win and where we want to go, you've got to have depth, and you've got to have competition and practice. All this will work itself out. You know, things usually work itself out the way it does, and I don't see any difference with that. And here's the bottom line: we're going to play a way that's going to create everyone how we want to play this year. We want to play so fast and try to create so many possessions that you're going to have to use go deeper in the bench, which I haven't a lot of times in my past.
Right.
But if we want to play that certain way, we're going to have to. But in the end, the bottom line is to find a way to get the W.
And there are times that you may run the 4 guards.
Yeah. Hey,
Not unlike Villanova, which had so much success.
Villanova, Greg, went to the Final Four with 4 small guards. Think of 4 guards if Dixon got the waiver. I mean, you're talking Chris Crawford, Joe Jackson, Jaren Johnson, and Michael Dixon. If you put those 4 in the court at one time, that's a hard matchup for the other opponent.
Let me flip it. Let me talk about the front court in a game where you're playing a bigger team that will try to slow it down and make it a half court. And you may not see a lot of those teams. You certainly ran into one in Michigan State in the NCAA tournament. You bring in David Pelham from GW, the transfer. You have a freshman coming in Woodson. Obviously Austin Nichols, who everybody knows about. And then you bring Shaq Goodwin back for us. Do you have enough up front?
Oh, there's no question. We got enough up front. We've got 4 really good front court guys there. And Dominic Woodson is 6'9.5", 6'10", 319 pounds, but he's light. He's not a 319.
A light 319.
Yeah, a light 319. And he's quick on his feet. He's got great hands. He's got big feet. So he's going to be good. He's got to get himself in good shape. You know, I think Shaq Goodwin playing with the USA basketball team, 19 and under, is going to be really good for him again. Won the gold medal last year in the 18 and under, but it's going to be good for him. And he's going to have a really good sophomore year. David Pelham, the guys like Dixon is in terms of experience. He averaged 10 and 6, the all-time. You know, shot 69% at GW. Right. You know, broke the school record for field goal percentage. You know, and he kind of does his job, takes charges, gets to where he needs to be. He's going to be a good player for us. And then Austin Nichols, and I want everyone to understand, because there's a lot of expectations on Austin Nichols. Let's not forget he's a freshman.
Tempered expectations.
Yeah, let's temper things. He's a freshman. Is he good? Yes. Does he have great hands? Absolutely. He catches things. He's very skilled. But I also know that he's a freshman, and there's going to be a big transition from high school to this level in college, and it's going to take some time, so everyone needs to understand that.
All right, quick thoughts here in our final few minutes on a number of subjects. Number 1, Memphis gets to host the first ever, the inaugural American Athletic Conference men's basketball tournament. How key is that to have the tournament at FedEx Forum?
First of all, economically for the city, unreal for that to happen. Awesome, off the chart. Everyone needs to give so much credit to Tom Bowen, to President Brad Martin, and to Kevin Kane. But my man, my boss, Tom Bowen, what a job he did to be able to get that. I mean, just amazing. And then thirdly, think about in this city, you're going to have at one time, obviously Memphis, but Louisville, Connecticut, you know, South Florida, Temple, Cincinnati,
exactly.
Rutgers, and then the 3 CUSA schools. It's going to be fun economically for the city. It's off the chain.
And we won't even ask you how great Conference USA is. You don't even have to bring that up now.
I still love Conference USA.
As we tape this, you still have 2 more teams to add to your schedule. Right. You're looking at a number of things. You got to see what the Grizzlies are doing, what's available at FedEx Forum. But some of the teams that you're going to play, you've really upped the schedule.
Well, let me say this, Greg. I have upped the schedule. We got a tough schedule because not only the non-conference is tough, but the league is going to be tough.
It's a lot better.
We play 18 games in the league play. Every one you play twice, and the league play will actually start December 30th. Doesn't mean you're going to play December 30th, but that's when the league will actually start conference play. So, you know, we still have 2 games to add. I don't think we'll eventually add them until the beginning of July because we do have to wait to see what the NBA schedule is with the Grizzlies because they have some holds on some things. So we're almost done with our schedule, but we got a heck of a schedule. It's going to be a top 10 non-conference strength of schedule, but it's going to prepare us for our conference.
Knowing that you were going to play tougher competition in league, why? And I'm not complaining. I love the fact you're going to play a tougher non-conference schedule, but why coinciding with a tougher?
3 reasons. Number 1 is, you know, we want to be prepared for league play. I mean, like going at Oklahoma State, second game of the season. You know how hard that is to go play in Stillwater there?
Right.
I mean, that's they're a top 10 team. That's going to help us down the road. Secondly, last year we had 30 wins going into the NCAA tournament. Only us and Gonzaga had a 12 RPI. And we get a 6 seed playing in Auburn Hills, basically a home game in Michigan State. I mean, it was a home game. And then third thing, the year before, we have 26 wins or 27 wins, have a 12 RPI, an 8 non-conference strength of schedule, and we got an 8 seed playing St. Louis, a 9 seed that should have been a 6 seed.
So you've given in. You've said, look, you can't beat them, join them.
But it matters. To them, it matters. You know, and now, you got to win some of those games too. And we have won our share of games, but I think us being in the new league, the perception-wise, because again, you're dealing with human beings, they're going to say, hey, you know, if you can do your job in some of those games in the league, you're going to set yourself up.
You've had these bonding trips. You've gone to the Bahamas, I think it was in the past. Anything scheduled for this team?
Nothing scheduled this year. We will do some bonding stuff, but the bonding stuff will end up being, you know, just preseason things. Because of the new rule, we're actually allowed to start practice earlier, 42 days prior to your first official countable game. So
You like that?
I do like it. So we've got to kind of work through that. That's actually going to be late September, early October instead of the actual October 15th date.
Final minute, as we tape, you may have by now hired your third assistant coach.
Right.
We know that Robert Kirby has been hired, a veteran assistant coach. What about this new staff, this revamped staff you're putting together?
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna hire great guys, high-level people. And when you hire high-level people, you're gonna lose people because other people are gonna come after them. And I'm gonna continue to do that. So anyone who thinks that, hey, that's not good that they're moving, we're going to continue to hire great people, and we're going to continue to lose people because they're good. Whether that's the head coaching opportunities or other opportunities in the industry, that's the fact. But it's my job to continue to hire high-level people. I'm going to continue to do that.
All right, you may have a future Larry Finch or Keith Lee out there, so get out there and keep working the camp. Always great, Josh.
Hey, if they're going to be able to shoot the ball, then we can maybe put them in Larry Finch's category.
Exactly. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you.
Memphian Casey Wittenberg was born into a golf household, so it's no surprise that was the direction he took as a youngster. The decorated junior player would go on to Oklahoma State University and become an All-American in his lone year with the Cowboys. But Wittenberg's road to the PGA Tour wasn't always paved in gold. He has overcome the roadblocks that come with the territory, and after regaining his card last year, has won over $400,000 this season and more than $1.2 million for his career. But with the good comes the bad, and Casey has missed 13 of 19 cuts this season, something he knows must be improved upon.
Well, Casey, great to see you again.
Glad
Thanks
to
for
be
joining
here.
us.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your season to date. Money winning, you're over $400,000. You'd like to be up there a little bit more, I know, in the FedEx Cup point standings, but give us your evaluation on what you've done so far this year.
Yeah, I've hung in there. I mean, obviously it's still a learning curve for me. I've still played some newer golf tournaments that I've never been able to play in the past, but all in all, it's just a progression, and I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. Hopefully a little hometown golf this week and get me going in the right spot.
I would imagine that having familiarity with a course as opposed to playing, like you said, for the first time gives you a much needed advantage, knowing the track.
Well, for sure, and it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, and you know kind of what to expect. You've seen the golf course maybe on different days depending on the weather situation, so I love playing at home, and I'm excited to be home, and I'm looking forward to the week.
And when we say home, I mean literally home. Your home is on this course, so not only familiar with the course, but familiar with everything surrounding it, and to have family and friends must make it real easy going for you as opposed to other tour stops you make during the year.
Yeah, for sure. It's a real relaxing week. You know, my family's a golf family, so they understand what goes into it, and I enjoy being able to play in front of them, and I enjoy being able to spend time with them because I don't get to spend that much time home here in Memphis due to my job, but all in all, it's a fun week, and I'm looking forward to it.
One of the better finishes you had this year was the Players' Championship, which many consider the fifth major, and there you are with Tiger Woods in the final pairing, and you've played with him before, right, in a pairing. What was that like for you, and what was that experience in finishing? I know it wasn't the finish you wanted on Sunday, but certainly overall for that tournament, it was a great finish.
Yeah, I mean, overall it was a great week. It was my first Players. I've spent a lot of time down there in Ponte Vedra playing that golf course. I really enjoyed it. It was a great golf tournament and a fun week to be able to play with Tiger. And like you said, I wish I could have played a little bit better on Sunday and hung in there and been a little bit more competitive than I was. But you know, all in all, it's just a tough golf course, and you just had to execute. Unfortunately, I just didn't do that as well on Sunday.
Is it a major factor, or is it no factor at all when you're dealing with what your game is all about, but you have that guy and those galleries following him across from you?
No, I mean, I enjoy playing with Tiger. I mean, we have good camaraderie out there. I mean, he's a great guy, and I've always enjoyed playing with him. I think we get along fairly well on the golf course, and you know, we're both out there to do a job, and we're both out there trying to play as good as we can. But you know, all in all, I enjoy the experience, and I definitely learn something every single time I play with him.
What is a typical day when you're not playing around in a tournament, but you're practicing and you're getting ready for a tournament? What would it be like?
You know, usually I'd start out in the morning with probably about an hour and a half gym session to get going and loosened up, and then you go out and either practice or play, depending on what you feel like is the most necessary thing at that time to improve your game. For me, I usually practice a lot. I usually spend anywhere from 3 to 4 hours on the driving range and putting greens, and might finish that up with like a 9 holes before the end of the day, and then it's all over again the next day.
That is a long day.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
What about your coach? What's that relationship like, and what do you get from the coach as far as tips and things to strengthen your game? What is he seeing that maybe you're not able to see?
Yeah, well, my coach is Adam Schreiber. He's a great guy, and he's an integral part of my game, along with a lot of other guys that are integral parts of my game. And between him and my club fitter Scott Felix, we just try and clean it all up. Obviously Adam's philosophy on the golf swing is something that I believe in and something that we work toward. And I spend a lot of time with him. I spend more time with him than I probably do with anybody else, including my wife in some aspects. So it's obviously a really important relationship, and it's obviously a relationship that is time consuming and one that both parties have to get a lot out of. And Adam's been like a father to me, and we've done a lot of stuff together, and I look forward to more stuff in the future.
Well, your father was a terrific player in his own right. What was that like growing up in the Wittenberg household where golf was all around you?
It was fortunate. I skipped a lot of steps as a junior and as an amateur because of my dad. Having the ability to be able to play out here for a number of years and seeing what some of the best players in the world did back during that time, and he is definitely the reason that I played good amateur golf, and definitely the reason that I've played some good professional golf. And he's still a very important part in my game, and we still spend a lot of time with each other on the golf courses and at tournaments. And as long as he's around, I'm sure my golf game will be okay.
What's the best advice he's ever given you for golf, and maybe the best advice he's ever given you for life?
Well, I think that's funny because golf's pretty similar to life. You are what you are. You are what your scores say you are, and if you're a 67 shooter, that's great. If you're a 75 shooter, that's not so great. So golf's just a reality, and it's a tough sport, and it's a humbling game, and it's one of those things that you constantly have to work at and constantly have to try to improve. And it's just like life. I mean, you constantly have to make adjustments, and you constantly have to make decisions that will drive you in different directions.
You say you are what you are. When I look at you on the course, whether it's watching you on television or occasionally here in person when you're playing the FedEx St. Jude Classic, I see a calm, cool demeanor. You got those sunglasses on, you kind of sashay down the course, down the fairway. Is that really the way you are? Are you as calm, cool, and collected as you look, or is internally, I should say, are you a little bit more jazzed up than we see?
No, I mean, I'm a pretty cool guy. I mean, I've done this now for 8 years, almost 9 years. So I mean, you get dead into it after a while. It's still some exciting moments out there where you get jazzed up a little bit, maybe more so than you show on the outside. But all in all, it's just about execution and just the inner fight in yourself and trying to attack the golf course yourself. And I feel like I've been fortunate to have some great people around me that have given me a lot of golf IQ, and I feel like that I try and do the best that I can in attacking the course. And some days are better than others.
You had the great year last year on the Web.com tour, and it obviously got you this card on the PGA Tour. What are your goals now for the rest of the year?
Well, obviously, I would love to win. I mean, that's obviously been a goal that I've had from the beginning of the year. Some of my performances, I've probably really only had 2 realistic chances this year so far to really be in contention on Sunday, and unfortunately, I didn't play well enough on Sunday to really take advantage of those. But, all in all, it's trying to improve as a player. It's trying to get better and better each week. It's trying to learn. And even though I've done it for a long time, I'm still fairly young at the sport, and I still have a long career in front of me.
What's your advice for a young golfer that's watching this interview right now? What would you say to young golfers out there, and maybe give them some good career advice?
Yeah, well, I think everybody's different. Everybody's family situation's different. Everybody's goals and dreams are different than others. But all in all, maturity is a priceless thing, and you have to be mature to be able to play out here at this level with the kind of talent that you're having to compete against every week. And I think that if a player can go to college for a few years and showcase that he can win on that level and win on the top amateur level, I think he deserves a shot to turn professional and do his thing.
Was the grind of the PGA Tour that you obviously have experienced, were you prepared for that from your father, or you weren't really prepared for it and it hit you like a ton of bricks when you started. I mean, were you more ready than maybe some others would be?
Well, I would like to think so. I mean, you know, my dad obviously had been out and done it, and you know, he had described it and explained it the best way he possibly could to me. I think it was still a shock in a lot of ways to realize how quickly it turns into a job.
Right. Right.
But you know, all in all, it's an everyday ordeal now. I mean, the talent level and the pool of golfers has just gotten so deep that, you know, you really have to spend almost every single day at it.
Hey, Casey, always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck. Looking
I
forward
really
to watching
appreciate
you at the U.S. Open. It was great to have you here back in Memphis, back in the hometown. And we'll be following you throughout the year and throughout your career.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And that'll do it for this week. Next week, we'll have much more on the Grizzlies coaching situation. And remember, you can see any of our past shows by heading to our website at WKNO.org and clicking on KNO Tonight. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.